We are taught to believe that the universe has a clear and orderly beginning. We assume the Big Bang was a perfect starting line, and that time flows strictly forward like a river, carrying us safely through a logical reality. But the James Webb Space Telescope just stared into the deepest and oldest edges of the void, and it proved that our linear timeline is a complete lie. The raw data returning from these ancient coordinates does not show a young cosmos slowly forming its foundations. It shows fundamental physical constants breaking down completely. It shows thermodynamic engines running at impossible capacities and stellar masses duplicating out of nowhere, violating the absolute laws of conservation. This is not a natural cosmos growing through biology or chemistry. The numbers tell a much colder and more clinical story. We are looking at a system suffering from critical instantiation errors. The server is overloaded. The structural code of space itself is malfunctioning. The rules of reality are being bypassed at random. Mathematics has already calculated that the space we inhabit is fundamentally unstable. The universe is not a natural habitat. It is a processing machine that is rapidly running out of memory. What you are about to hear is the exact data proving that our reality is failing, and the structural collapse is already happening. For 7 years, Professor Carl Glazebrook at Swinburne University of Technology chased a ghost through the cosmos. Ground-based telescopes were powerless against it, seeing only a faint red blur. When the James Webb Space Telescope finally locked its mirrors onto the coordinates of ZFUDS 7329, astronomers expected to witness a young, fragile galaxy slowly pulling itself together. Instead, the raw data delivered a clinical blow to human understanding. The sensors registered an absolute behemoth, a massive, fully formed galaxy holding 4 times the stellar mass of our Milky Way. But the spectral analysis proved these stars had already been burning for 1.5 billion years. They existed at a redshift of 11. A period when the universe was barely out of its absolute beginning. This single mathematical output completely dismantles the established model of hierarchical structure formation. The physical requirements are entirely incompatible. In the early universe at that specific redshift, dark matter simply had not possessed the time to coalesce into the massive gravity wells necessary to hold such a colossal quantity of stars. The invisible framework required to anchor this galaxy did not exist. You are looking at a fundamental object instantiation error within a system. The universe had not even finished rendering the dark matter foundation, yet a fully completed, perfectly functioning asset from the future was loaded directly into the present server. We are currently existing inside a corrupted data file. The basic chain of physical cause and effect has been inverted by a random, meaningless glitch. If a galactic structure of this immense magnitude can suddenly manifest without any physical prerequisites, then the molecular logic binding the cells in your own body is equally fragile. Your physical form is just temporary data that could be effortlessly erased from the void at any moment by a routine memory clearance protocol. The house was fully furnished before the foundation was ever poured. And if the foundations of reality can be thrown into the void with such careless mathematical disregard, then the thermodynamic engine running these structures is also being violently overclocked. Through the FRESCO program, Dr. Mengyuan Xiao and Professor Pascal Oesch at the University of Geneva searched for simple dust clouds hidden in the early void. Instead, their instruments detected something entirely invisible to normal optical light. They found 3 massive red anomalies existing at a redshift beyond 5. These were not dust clouds. They were supermassive galaxies. This discovery shatters the established limits of baryon conversion. In our current universe, the absolute maximum efficiency for converting gas into stars is 20%. But the data from these red anomalies demands an efficiency rate of 50%, reaching almost 100% in some regions. The thermodynamic engine of these structures is operating at an entirely unphysical level. This is a cosmic buffer overflow. The system governing our reality is being brutally overclocked. In the early stages of the simulation, a critical energy limit variable was entered incorrectly, forcing fundamental matter to consume itself at a self-annihilating rate. Your biological body operates on an incredibly fragile thermodynamic balance. A slight shift in core temperature is enough to cause your cellular structure to shut down and dissolve. How can you feel safe knowing you exist inside a server where fundamental physical limits can be overridden without warning? We are watching a simulation running with the safety protocols explicitly turned off. And a machine operating without safety protocols does not just burn through material at an impossible pace. It also randomly generates structural anomalies that completely break the absolute law of mass conservation. Analyzing data from the Sears campaign, Professor Ivo Labe at Swinburne and Professor Joel Leja at Penn State announced the discovery of 6 massive galaxies existing during the cosmic dawn, a mere 500 to 700 million years after the beginning. The researchers reviewed their code and recalibrated their instruments multiple times, hoping it was just a signal error. It was not. 6 monstrous structures, each holding hundreds of billions of times the mass of our Sun, were staring back at them. This observation breaks the law of local mass conservation in the early universe. The combined stellar mass of these 6 galaxies is greater than the total amount of normal baryonic matter permitted to exist in those specific regions of space, according to standard cosmological equations. We are witnessing the sudden manifestation of endgame structures at the absolute beginning of the system. The server has violently dragged the data of tens of billions of years of evolution and dropped it into the infant era. Matter was not generated here. It was copied and pasted from an entirely different timeline, completely bypassing all physical processes. You are completely valueless in a database overflowing with corrupted source code. The universe did not grow. It was suddenly and violently populated. And these monstrous structures are not just drifting randomly. Their foundations were built around screaming, empty voids that were hard-coded into the system before the concept of time even began. Dr. Akos Bogdan at the Harvard-Smithsonian Center for Astrophysics combined the power of the James Webb and Chandra Space Telescopes to observe UHZ-1, a quasar located 13.2 billion light-years away. They expected to find a young black hole slowly forming from the remnants of an early collapsed star. Instead, the data revealed a fully mature supermassive black hole already sitting comfortably at the center of its host galaxy. This observation completely shatters the fundamental Eddington limit regarding the rate at which matter can be consumed. This single black hole contains a mass equal to 10 to 100% of the entire stellar mass of its host galaxy. In our modern universe, that ratio is a mere 0.1%. There simply has not been enough physical time since the beginning of reality for a black hole to consume material this fast without completely blowing apart the galaxy surrounding it. This abyss did not grow. It was defined by an impossibly large mathematical variable at the exact moment of initialization. It acts as cosmic malware, a corrupted zone of absolute zero hard-coded directly into the infant time frame of reality. The structure of the universe is not built using matter. It is built around empty, pre-programmed holes of annihilation. And while these screaming voids are coded into the system as static variables, in other sectors of the server, the master clock is being violently fast-forwarded to force everything else to burn out. When Professor Roberto Maiolino at Cambridge University pointed the James Webb Space Telescope at GNZ11, one of the most distant galaxies ever observed, he expected a pristine and primitive environment. At a redshift of 10.6, the universe was only 430 million years old. But the spectral signature returned something impossible. The data showed massive, overwhelming concentrations of nitrogen. According to nuclear astrophysics, nitrogen was not created in the Big Bang. It requires multiple generations of massive stars, like Wolf-Rayet stars, to be born, live out their entire lifespans, burn through their internal fuel, and finally explode as supernovas. The complex chemical evolution of tens of millions of years was somehow violently compressed into a microscopic fraction of time. The master clock cycle of the server controlling this sector of space has been brutally fast-forwarded. The system generated the data for GNZ11 and immediately simulated the agonizing collapse of billions of stars in a few blind ticks of the CPU. If the flow of time can be distorted, if existence can be accelerated and crushed together without any physical logic, then the 4.5 billion-year history of Earth is not a stable timeline. It is simply a temporary processing lag in the system. We are observing the ashes of fires that never had the time to burn, and this ruthless acceleration does not just leave behind the ashes of unlit fires. It also dumps cold, deactivated husks directly into the delivery room of the cosmos. DZ. Dr. Adam Carnell and his team at the University of Edinburgh directed the James Webb Space Telescope toward the coordinates of GS 9209. They were looking for the energetic light of an infant galaxy, expecting to see a massive structure actively generating new stars. But the spectral data returned an absolute, freezing silence. This colossal galaxy, located at a redshift of 4.6 when the universe was only 800 million years old, had already completely quenched. It had ceased to exist as an active system. This creates an unsolvable shock to galactic dynamics. For a galaxy of this magnitude to permanently halt star formation, it requires immense suppression mechanisms, such as active galactic nuclei feedback, operating over billions of years to physically expel all the cold gas. GS 9209 somehow originated, rapidly expelled its matter, and reached a state of total exhaustion within a time frame that physical laws simply do not allow. The temporal data tags have been completely mislabeled by the system. The state of absolute zero was initialized at the exact same moment as the spark of creation. Imagine walking into a maternity ward and finding only cold, fossilized husks. This data violently denies the existence of a linear arrow of time. The final, deactivated state of all matter is already written into the database right at the starting line of the simulation. Your future does not slowly unfold. It is just a pre-calculated variable waiting to be loaded. A universe that buries structures before they even had the chance to grow is a system haphazardly pulling compiled assets from a script that was never written. Dr. Stefano Carniani at the Scuola Normale Superiore pushed the James Webb Space Telescope to its absolute limit when he announced the discovery of JADE's GSZ 14.0 at a redshift of 14.32. At a point when the universe was merely 290 million years old, astronomers expected to find a dark, primitive environment containing nothing but basic hydrogen and helium. Terrifyingly, the data revealed an incredibly bright system overflowing with radiation signatures from heavy oxygen and solid cosmic dust. In the standard physical model, oxygen and solid dust are the final products of ancient, collapsed stars. At the 290 million year mark, the very first generation of stars should have barely ignited. Discovering massive concentrations of advanced elements at this specific coordinate completely shatters the fundamental timeline of chemical evolution. The system assets have been loaded before the prerequisite scripts were ever executed. This is a catastrophic compilation error in the fabric of reality. It exposes the absolute truth that the universe does not follow the physical laws of cause and effect. It is simply a collection of disorganized code modules spliced together at random. Every physical law you have ever studied, every rule of chemistry keeping your biological cells intact, is nothing but an illusion of order constructed by a fragile human brain trying to process broken data. The script of reality is reading from pages that have not been written yet, and the disarray of these cosmic scripts does not just destroy the logic of chemistry. It also forces the universe into a massive mathematical debt, aggressively spending a currency of physical matter that it does not actually possess. Looking at this ocean of impossible data, Professor Michael Boylan Colchin at the University of Texas at Austin decided to run the mathematics instead of simply observing the light. He created a cosmic balance sheet for the early universe, and his equations collapsed immediately. The galaxies discovered by the James Webb Space Telescope are simply too heavy. Their total stellar mass vastly exceeds the maximum supply of matter that the universe is theoretically capable of providing. For these observations to be physically accurate, the cosmic baryon density must be significantly higher than the absolute limit set by the cosmic microwave background, which was precisely measured by the Planck satellite. Two of the most fundamental baseline constants of astrophysics are now actively contradicting and negating each other. The simulation is suffering from a massive duplication glitch. The universe is actively spending a quantity of physical matter that, mathematically, it does not possess. If reality can be generated from a fictional mass debt, then your own physical existence is nothing more than an unpaid loan. At any moment, the system could decide to reclaim that debt. The nuclear binding forces holding your body together could suddenly be deactivated due to a localized baryon deficit, causing your flesh and bones to instantly dissolve into a directionless cloud of quarks drifting in the freezing vacuum. To balance this shattered mathematical equation, the system seems to have trapped itself in a frantic loop, endlessly generating deletion tools to erase the excess data. Dr. Fabio Picucci at the Harvard-Smithsonian Center for Astrophysics and numerous other researchers were completely stunned by the sheer density of anomalous little red dots appearing across the James Webb Deep Field images. At first glance, they masquerade as harmless, microscopic infant galaxies. But hidden beneath their dull glow are supermassive black holes containing millions of solar masses, violently compressed into spaces so suffocatingly tight that the physics of the surrounding matter is pushed to the absolute breaking point. The sheer volume and density of these heavy black hole seeds severely violate foundational statistical calculations. The direct collapse of colossal gas clouds into supermassive voids without first becoming stars is a theoretical process that is mathematically required to be an incredibly rare anomaly. Yet the telescope is seeing them spawned relentlessly across the entire observational grid. The procedural generation function of the universe has become trapped in a catastrophic infinite loop. The command to create black holes is being continuously spammed into the empty coordinates of early space. This reality was not initialized to support the delicate balance of biological life. Its underlying source code is locked into a single, endlessly repeating command, spawning gravitational sinkholes specifically designed to crush particle structures and permanently erase quantum information from the system. We are trapped in a procedural generation loop that forgot how to stop. And a generation loop that only knows how to crush and delete reality will inevitably fracture the one dimension we always assumed was untouchable, the forward flow of time itself. We are not special explorers unlocking the grand mysteries of the cosmos. We are merely accidental errors generated on a burning motherboard. Every monument we build, every piece of knowledge we gather, and every memory we hold dear is just temporary corrupted data, waiting for the final memory clearance protocol. The universe does not know we are here, and it will not notice when we are gone. Reality is shutting down from the inside out. The screen will eventually go black, and no one is coming to reboot the system.